Hello, you're watching Talking Europe on France 24. I'm Catherine Nicholson. Now, it is possibly the most important job of all within the European Union, and a woman has been nominated for the role for the first time. Ursula von der Leyen nominated to swap the German Defence Ministry for the President's office at the European Commission. Now, some have hailed this top job pick as a victory for equality, but others are much less happy, including many members of this European Parliament who will be voting on whether to confirm Ms von der Leyen for the job. Now, some say a rebellion could be on the cards. Before we delve into the subject with our panel of MEPs here, let's give you a closer look at the first woman to be nominated as President of the European Commission. This report by Charlie James.
Europe is needed. Europe has to speak with one voice.
Germany's Ursula von der Leyen has been a passionate supporter of the European Union. Now she could take over the bloc's top job. If EU Parliament confirms von der Leyen as European Commission chief, she will be the first woman to ever hold the post. But blazing that trail isn't new to von der Leyen. The 60-year-old conservative politician is currently Germany's first female defense minister. Born in Brussels, von der Leyen comes from a political family. Her father was a prominent German state premier. But she didn't enter politics until the age of 42, after first building a career in medicine. She became a minister in the regional state government of Lower Saxony before spending the past 14 years as a cabinet minister. Her tenure as German defense minister hasn't been smooth, marked by international crises, scandals, and criticism. But she is also considered a close ally of Chancellor Angela Merkel.
Ursula von der Leyen has earned so much trust among other leaders for all sorts of different reasons.
Von der Leyen speaks fluent English and French and has lived in Britain and the United States. If she heads to Brussels as head of the EU's executive arm, she will oversee a broad range of decisions for the bloc, from law proposals on everything from migration to climate, to negotiating trade deals, to policing member states' budgets.
Let's introduce our guests this week for you. We have, first of all, Spanish Socialist MEP Juan Fernando López Aguilar. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Next to you, Christoph Hansen, a Luxembourgish MEP.
Nice to be with you.
Across from you, we have Stelios Kouloglou, Greek MEP, returning to the European Parliament as well, with the European United Left. Hello.
Thank you. Thank you.
And next to you, completing our four, we have Sven Giegold, German MEP representing the Greens here in the Parliament. So let's get straight into it then. We've got the first female Commission President who's been nominated, so that in itself would be something quite historic. But of course, there's all this controversy about the process that led to this nomination. Even Jean-Claude Juncker himself, who is of the same political party, said it wasn't very transparent. So Christian Hansen, as a member of Mr. Juncker, Ms. von der Leyen's party, they don't think it was very transparent. What do you think?
Well, I think the process has been completely untransparent. I think we all agree on that. The Parliament and the political groups in the European Parliament, or most of them, made a great step towards more transparency, towards more democracy, presented lead candidates for the European elections. These candidates got their results, but in the end, the Council just put them again under the carpet like they used to do in the past. For me, it's a big deception. It's a big step backwards. It could have been an enormous step for democracy in the European Union. We had a big participation in the European elections. So for me, it's not only a slap in the face of the European Parliament, but as well of the European voters.
Okay, I'm seeing lots of people nodding. We'll come to you, Mr. López Aguilar.
This is the European Parliament, and in this House we all share disappointment because we have done our job by coming up with manifestos representing the political platforms of the most important political families of this House, but also coming with the so-called Spitzenkandidaten, which was a push to the democratization, to the legitimization of the European political process and decision-making. But in this House, you only learn much too soon that we have a candidate, only one candidate, and she's on the table now for the top job, which is the Presidency of the Commission. And this European Parliament is to examine her thoroughly as to her intentions, as to her capacity, her quality, and her devotion to the European affair, because she comes from the Council. And this is a completely different matter. She's headed for the Commission. And besides, it's not only her, It's a balance. For one thing, we've got gender balance in the whole package, 2 women, 2 men, but it's also the whole commission to be, which is also to be examined very thoroughly by this European Parliament, rigorously. And we are bound to examine her as to the contents of the European policy, which is to be implemented by the next commission. If she fails, she won't pass. If she manages to sum up a majority, a parliamentary majority, she will have at least the legitimacy to build up a commission of her own.
Okay, so not sounding like you're necessarily automatically going to be voting for her on this side of the table.
I think the only positive thing of this choice is that she's a woman.
The only positive.
The only positive.
She has lots of experience.
Yes, but I mean, a very mediocre result. I mean, she's considered a very mediocre politician in Germany. So, without any experience in the European politics and this whole stuff, how she could do with Europe, which is in a difficult situation? Actually, I think that the choice symbolizes the status of the European Union today, which is in a very and also herself symbolizes the policies that have made Europe today in this state. That means austerity policies. With Greece, I'm coming from Greece. With Greece, it was very tough during the negotiations in 2015, and now everybody accepts, apologizes, accepts that was a mistake, that Greece were punished very much. She is responsible for that. I would like to ask her about this. And now what? I mean, if the Germans, if the German political party are not considering her a good candidate, why we could consider her a good candidate? I don't see any reason. She's for the defense of Europe. Okay, Mr. Macron is also an admirer of the defense. That's one of the reasons. But the whole process, the backroom deals, like an Ottoman-style backroom deal. I give you this, you give me that. Is this European? Is this a European civilization? Is this the European Union we are looking for? We need somebody better than Mr. Juncker, and I'm afraid we're gonna feel nostalgia for Mr.
Juncker.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll come into that just a bit more. I'd like to hear from Sven Giegold, who is, of course, from Germany, same country as Ursula von der Leyen. And she said that her priorities will be to seek smart advice, listen to all the parliamentary groups, and together work out the best plan for the future of Europe.
Well, I even come from Hanover originally. That's exactly the place where Ursula von der Leyen comes from. So, but beyond that, I think the starting point for the deliberation here is that we together, Socialists, Christian Democrats, Greens, we promised the lead candidate process. And we said this will strengthen European democracy. The left also had their lead candidate, even the Eurosceptics had it. And now the Council presented someone who was not known to the citizens and asking us to vote after 2 weeks without citizens to know her positions on Europe on one person. So I think this is really premature. We should first of all demand from the Council a stronger European Parliament with a safeguard how this Spitzenkandidaten process is regulated, how we get transnational lists, so that in the next elections we can be sure that we have more democracy, because otherwise a higher voter turnout would mean less democracy, less European Parliament. So therefore I ask the 2 largest groups to support that we first demand from the European Council more democracy, and then we vote on one person or another person, but we should not accept that European Parliament is weakened after this nomination.
Well, let's hear from our representatives from the 2 largest groups. Putting conditionality on accepting Ursula von der Leyen, will you be voting in favour of her?
Well, for me, I think it's even if she's from my political group, I want to hear now from her what her plans are for the next years. That's the first thing. And then secondly, for us as well, we strongly support the Spitzenkandidaten system. So we really want to be hammered in stone for the next European elections. That's, I think, really a condition for us.
That's 5 years away, though, the next European elections. I mean, that's quite a long time to wait, isn't it?
Well, and the point is, if I may put this to you, the point is the Council will only give us security over more democracy before the nomination. So von der Leyen cannot deliver it. It's the Council to deliver it. And therefore, if the Council wants their candidate, they have to give us security first.
We all agree it's utterly arguable the way the candidate has been put on the table and before this European Parliament. We have done a part of the job. It's completely discouraging to see that for the first time ever, the European Parliament was first democratically elected back to 1979. The turnout has been on the rise because it was always declining systematically. So now, for the first time ever, it's been higher than 50% of the overall turnout of the European Union. Why so? Precisely because the message passed through. The message was that by voting, the European citizens would have a say as to the European leadership. So it's completely counterproductive the way the Council has behaved. But now we've got a candidate on the table, and our duty is to examine her with no concessions.
My question is, though, it would be unprecedented for the European Parliament to not vote in favour of the nomination for the President of the Commission. Would you be prepared to not vote for Ursula von der Leyen if you didn't hear the commitments?
Of course.
I imagine you would, because you're from the European United Left.
No, I think
wasn't involved in the decision-making.
we have to tackle this very bad dilemma Merkel and Macron are putting on us. Either you choose stability or democracy. But this is not a democratic dilemma. This is a kind of threat or a kind of blackmail. Either you vote for somebody you don't want, or we have more instability in the European Union. I think we need more democracy.
We don't see so far reasons to vote for her. First, we have not received from the Council a guarantee for more democracy in the future. This she cannot deliver, and we have to demand it from the Council before we can accept any proposal from them. Second, it's on the substance, I agree fully with you. Whoever is then a candidate has to deliver on climate change, social justice, more ability to act on the European level. And in particular, there are open questions when it comes to civil rights. Because do not forget that Mr. Timmermans was not accepted because he was too pushy on civil rights. So therefore, we need from von der Leyen, and now we need from von der Leyen, not general blah blah on civil rights, but clear commitments to be tough on Poland, on Malta, on Hungary, and so on.
Usually in these nominations, there's an intention to respect a certain geographical balance within Europe, east, west, north, south, big countries, small countries. All of these top jobs have gone to old, long-standing member states, the bigger, wealthier countries. Isn't this going to worsen those east-west splits?
The old German-French axis is once again ruling out the biggest posts. There's no major post that has gone to any eastern country. For me, it's really a big problem. I would as well ask the Council if they are so keen on rule of law as well to nominate finally Mrs. Kövesi as the chief of the...
True. Very true.
That's really things we have to demand from Council as well. And then everyone is always saying using the Spitzenkandidaten system and the rule of law when it's just serving their causes. Mr. Macron, who in my opinion killed himself, the Spitzenkandidaten system, is one of them because he didn't have, he's always criticizing Viktor Orban, but in Council it was good enough to make an alliance with him against Manfred Weber just to achieve his goals. So that is for me a major point we should consider.
It is impossible to strike a complete balance of a single strike for candidates. It's impossible to cover the whole range, but it is also true that we have in the past experienced, for instance, Donald Tusk coming from Poland as President of the Council. We have seen Jerzy Buzek, President of the European Parliament. Not this time.
Last word then to Mr. Kouloglou.
I'm afraid the leaders of the European Union are suffering from the syndrome of Titanic. They are dancing in the first class, but the ship is going towards the iceberg, you know. They are not understanding what's happening. The disintegration of the European Union, the Brexit, where all the things come from. Why they have to we took so many time to choose a candidate. You know, we have to change direction of the ship. They are not realizing this, and we are going towards the iceberg. the situation is getting worse and worse every year. And I don't, not economy. I mean, economy is a little bit, yes. But I mean, the people,
unity.
The unity. You know, we don't have unity anymore.
Be a bit more positive, a bit more positive.
No, I'm very pessimistic because we are repeating the same hope that they will realize something, they will understand. Did they tell me something? Did they understand something from the Brexit? Why European Union is not attractive anymore, and the people and the British wanted to leave? You know, they did not understand anything. The next day it was business as usual. You mean, we have Hungary, we have Poland, etc., etc.
At least before the Brexit, the European Union behaved. In my view.
We have all these countries, turning against the collective decision, not applying the decisions for the refugees. Nothing is happening. You know, everybody is doing what every country what it wants. You know, business as usual. And the only thing is, you know, to have a leader somewhere to promote the defense of Europe, and to make the industry of arms work. Okay, but this is not enough. This is not enough.
Look, I agree with the need for profound change in Europe. At the same time, if you say everything is ever getting worse, you misunderstand, from my perspective, one point, that still it's a great place to live in Europe for most people, not for all. There, unfortunately, is poverty. But we have done steps for more social union and a greener union, and we need more of this. But if we approach it always from the negative side, we will convince no one.
Well, unfortunately, that is all we have time for. Thank you all very much, though, for taking part in this rather passionate debate. I'd like to thank Stelios Kouloglou, Sven Giegold, Juan Fernando Lopez Aguilar, and Christoph Hansen. Thank you all for being with us. Thanks to you as well for watching. Hope to see you very soon for more Talking Europe on France 24.
Three, 2, 1, 0.
50 years after Neil Armstrong was the very first man to set foot on the moon,
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Revisited takes you inside NASA.
We've actually been very busy for the last 50 years, learning how to live and work off the surface of the planet for a long time.
You will meet those who made the Apollo program possible.
I think we were too young to know we couldn't do it, so we did it.
And we will bring you here in the middle of the desert, where men and women are preparing the next step. It's The Moon Revisited, and it's on France 24.
Revisited on France 24 and France24.com.